Good morning, and thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. This lovely day that the Lord has made, we rejoice and be glad in it as we wait for the final results of what will happen regarding America's politics. Will we see the first woman of color take it, or will Donald Trump bounce back to White House after having survived, of course, the assassination attempts, but also so much in terms of litigation concerning what happened when he was pushing for the allegations that he had been rigged in an election. But also, to me, today happens to be a very special day, because it was on this day that I became a dad of a daughter for the first time. Happy birthday to Vanya Chirabo Nyonyitono. She makes to today. And may all the best that the world has give it to you. But away from that, also today is a special day for me, because every time I'm discussing issues regarding cooperatives, I'm very excited. Reason that I believe and have grown up hearing so much said about the good days of cooperatives. I've heard so many interesting stories. How people, even if you never had money those days, but you had your coffee, you know, you would sleep content that your children would go to school and you'll have rest assurance that the fees are going to be paid, even medical and very many areas. So today I have two gentlemen. That is Ivan Asimwe, who is the General Secretary Uganda Cooperative Alliance, and a man I usually refer to as cooperatives because he's very passionate when speaking about cooperatives. Ivan, you're most welcome.
Thank you so much, moderator. Good morning, all our viewers, and happy birthday to Chirabo Dota.
And just next to him, I have another person also very passionate about cooperatives, and that's Dr. Richard Miro, who happens to be the vice chair, that is the Uganda Federal Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services. He's with us this morning, and he will still be telling us more in that area. Most welcome, Doctor.
Thank you so much, and also happiest birthday to your dear daughter. Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
Well, our topic this morning is effective agricultural extension and advisory services through cooperatives. Now, most of the times when you talk about advisory services, many will tell you we don't see these extension workers, they never come, we suffer with so many problems. But first, I'll begin with the doctor. When we talk about UFAAS, what is this? What is your mandate? And how do you integrate into the cooperative movement?
Well, thank you so much, and good morning, viewers. My name is Richard Miro. I'm the Vice Chairperson of the Uganda Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services. I'm also a Senior Lecturer, Department of Extension and Innovation Studies at Makerere University, School of Agricultural Sciences. So, well, first of all, what UFAS is, UFAS brings together actors, professionals, practitioners who are employed in the field of advising farmers and providing extension services to farmers. And at the same time, we also having identified and encouraged them to come together to network as a membership organization. We also recognize that there are other stakeholders, for example, those who teach agriculturalists who are going to be serving farmers, that is from academia, those who do research, like those from the National Agricultural Research Organization here in Uganda, even financing organizations which finance farmers and have to advise them in the area of financial literacy, investing, those also in the area of agribusiness and marketing. As long as you are a professional and you are a farmer-facing advisor. Even these days, Mr. Chirabo, we even have people who in agro dealership who sell agricultural inputs. They do advise farmers. We even have farmers, we call them lead farmers, who also advise on several aspects to farmers. So we think that that role has to be done professionally, ethically, and we have to hold each other accountable. So UFAS brings us all together. And very importantly, certainly, even our cooperatives, farm organizations for that matter. We see them as farmers' organizations, and cooperatives are one of those very important farm organizations which Uganda has had over the years, and they're still here. So again, the leadership of cooperatives, including the umbrella organization of UCA, can also be members of UFAS. Now, very importantly, our mandate is to come together as actors in this space to hold each other accountable in terms of how professionally we're providing this service, but also to build each other's capacity, identify where we need to be stronger and work together. We also network, learn from each other, the innovations that are in cooperatives or in NGOs. I didn't mention, but even NGOs which are doing extension are also welcome to be members, and we have several of them who are members. And even banks, because as I talked about finance. So we network, we lobby also and advocate government to provide good space for agriculture extension services. We've heard about the extension bill, which we need again. We also, the other thing we do is building institutions, making sure that institutions, organizations have good working environment for their workers. And so we also go into that space. So, but most interestingly, Mkulu Chirabo, is that we are also part of the African Forum for Agriculture Advisory Services. So we're like a country chapter. So we have an opportunity also to network continentally. As Uganda, we can share the innovations in agriculture extension and advisory services. As you are aware nowadays, even they move from production through marketing, trade, agriculture inputs, what we call the agricultural value chain. Advisory services have moved into that space. Technology companies, IT companies are also welcome. So now, after that also lastly, is that we're also part of the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services. It's called GIFRAS. And so that's how we and who we are. We are a membership organization. We are a non-governmental entity. But we work also very, very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. I think that's it for now, and thank you for that question. I will add more, certainly.
Well, now, having known your mandate, it brings me to Ivan. Ivan, we know most of the famous cooperatives are those in agriculture, in the minds of many Ugandans. Actually, when you talk about cooperatives, people run to the agriculture sector.
That's true.
These financial are relatively new. They complement. Now, how has UFAS been beneficial to the cooperative movement?
Oh, thank you so much. Good morning once again, our viewers. Very happy to be here today and very privileged to have UFAS. Because ideally, when you are looking at the agricultural advisory services, then here we talk about advisory extension services. Now, very importantly is that most of our people we are talking about, the cooperators, are in the agricultural sector. We all know that in this country, agricultural sector takes almost 70% in terms of the population being there, employed in the agricultural sector. And most importantly, if you are to look at the statistics globally, over 500 million small households are there in the agricultural sector. So we have over 500 million small farmers' households who are there in the agricultural sector. Now, when you come to Uganda, it's around 3.5 million households are in the agricultural sector. These are smallholders. So how do you provide advisor and extension services, then ideally these people need to come together. There are so many. If you are to look, if he is to tell you the statistics, you will find that the extension workers will not be enough to cover all these 3.5 million households. There are so many. Now, the solution is that we need to have farmer organizations, we have to have cooperatives. And that is why UCA works closely with the UFAS. Because for us, our role is to make sure that these farmers come together, produce together, aggregate together, add value, and collectively market. Once the farmers go through that value chain, and at the end of the day there is collective marketing and there is a better price, automatically they would require advisory and extension services. It doesn't make sense for government to invest in advisory services when they are not addressing the marketing part, when they are not addressing value addition, when they are not addressing aggregation. Farmers will have a lot of produce, and the moment there is no market, next season people will never go to the garden. So ideally, we need that synergy. Uganda Cooperative Alliance, UFAS, how do we work together to make sure that the farmers have the information on production and productivity, but they don't only end there, they cover the entire value chain. Now bringing in the concept of cooperatives, there is access to inputs, there is collective production, there is aggregation, there is value addition, and collective marketing. Our viewers, when we are talking about cooperatives globally, I want us to understand each other. That globally, we have over 3 million cooperatives. Over 3 million. Now we are talking about over 3 billion members of these cooperatives. Globally, over 3 billion are members of cooperatives. So when we are talking about this, we are not only looking at Uganda. Go global and see what is happening. Go to Europe, go to America, go to Asia. You will see the power of cooperatives. You go to Netherlands and you see how farmers access advisory services using the group methodology. So government no longer has an extension worker going to individual farmers. No, it is very costly to government. And I want government to listen to this. Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture ideally should be focusing on cooperatives. Because how do you provide extension services to these farmers, smallholder farmers, who are in 3.5 million households? It's very costly and practically it's impossible. But when you, for example, Netherlands, you will find that the farmers who are members of Friesland Campina, if you wanted to train them in dairy, then you don't need to go to individual farmers. Now they are in the digital space. There is like a digital training whereby everybody sits in his or her compound, is a member of the Friesland Campina, and is attending a seminar. That is how fight has moved. It is very costly, it is very effective and efficient. And that's why we are here talking about effective advisor and extension services using the cooperative model.
Now this takes me back to Dr. Miro. Yes. One of the challenges you find with our farmers is lack of effective advisory services. Yeah. One time I was in a village deep in Mitukula, and I found almost the entire village they had planted cassava, but it was attacked by a certain disease. Now, what hurt me most is that after a period of time, I went to Namuronge, that research institute, and I found cassava varieties that cannot succumb to that disease. But here we were, an entire village, and they highly depend on cassava flour. Yes. I think it's one of their staple foods there. And they were worried, what next? But also, just within around, there was some VIP I want to mention who was getting the cassava from this other place and planting. Like, oh, yo murogo, what is kamukwata? Oh. You know? So, even when you go to dairy, when you go to, there is a lot of absence of knowledge. Yet you, the doctors, you do a lot of research. And sometimes you travel to an international forum And now let's introduce the person who discovered a variety of this that is resistant to wilt. Dr. Miro from Uganda. We clap, and guess what? The man discovered it. He's getting honors and awards, but back home. So how do we trickle down this information to them?
A very, very important and very pertinent question. The fact that there could be technologies and solutions out there, and yet farmers that are really, whose livelihood depend on a crop like cassava, do not have that information or do not have the technologies, particularly the variety that can sort a challenge that they are facing. First of all, I would say that, of course, our farmers are used to grow their own traditional cassava varieties, for example. And these certainly sometimes succumb to challenges that you've mentioned. And there is also a true picture of lack of extension services and easy access to these services. Apparently, we know that for every one extension worker, there are about 4,000 farmers to reach. We call it extension to farmer ratio. I'm just trying to confirm the fact that it is possible that a whole community can have a situation where they do not easily have access to services. But not to say that there is no government presence. I think it's an issue where the collaboration or the ease of reaching the available, because you have available advisors. In this case, that particular area should have a sub-county agriculture extension officer of government. It is also likely to have some NGO which is providing agricultural services around that area. It's likely to have a farmers organization, a cooperative also not far there. But some farmers work in isolation and may not easily reach out. We call it also demanding. So I want to bring it two ways. I don't want to put the blame to the extension providers, let alone the researchers who develop the technologies. I'd like also to speak to our farmers that yes, when a challenge like that comes, at the sub-county, there's the agricultural extension advisor, your sub-county, supervised by the district agricultural officer. So that advice or that service is available from the government line of service, let alone the other services. So that's why we encourage now farmers also to reach out to these officers and seek their guidance and support. The other thing where I believe cooperatives become very important is that if a whole village depends, for example, on cassava, let me bring it from, let me say, from an academic or argument point of view, that yes, we have cassava as our main source of living, it's our main source of food, but I think it's also our main source of income in some form. So before we engage in such an important income and food security crop, we have to be sure of the market, as Mukulu Ivan mentioned. And so when we cooperate together, we would say, okay, we have a target to market this cassava. Where are we going to sell this cassava? Let's say we know where we're going to. What kind of variety do they want? Do we have that variety? Now that's where the farmers' attempt to seek for information is likely to lead them to these already available sources. And I must also admit that sometimes we seek information after challenge like the ones that they faced. And so my big question would be, were those farmers able to reach out, say, to the government agricultural officer for help, and they were denied support? And it is this agricultural officer at the district who now is aware about what is happening at Namulonge and is able to create a link between the farmers and help them access the cassava materials available that are safe and clean from Namulonge. So I think it's that's why we're encouraging cooperatives of farmers' organizations, so that farmers also create an ask through the local government agriculture officer or through the NGOs that are available. So I think that problem then would not persist unless there are other challenges in that service chain, you know what I mean, where the agriculture extension worker would say, I'm sorry, I don't have transport to go to Namulonge, or we don't have money to buy materials. In this case, the farmers, through their cooperative or organized system, can even say, no, we can put together finances to purchase those materials, as long as they are clean, as long as they are good, and that we will address our need. So my point, therefore, is to, especially now, especially you who is, not especially, but like you who is connected, I think that's the message we would say, that let's rally together, approach our officer and place this demand. I believe that our agriculture officer will reach Namulonge and arrangements to supply will be made and that problem will be met. That's what I would say. Yeah,
maybe to make a rejoinder. Thank you, Doctor, for that explanation. It's well explained. You know, here, moderator, first of all, we want to appreciate our government for the current support to farmers, especially in areas of advisory and extension. They have done their part really fantastically well. We want to thank all the extension workers outside there. They are doing their work. However, with the challenges, as we all know, they have challenges. Now, it's very important that we actually look at this in a more effective and efficient way. And this is our extension is there, the advisory services are there, fine. But how do we make them effective and efficient? And here we are talking about the cooperative model. I want to call upon all the farmers outside there. There is no way, you know, Ugandans, we have a tendency of blaming others. My maize has been attacked by weed. Government is not doing its work. Before you blame, what's your role? Why don't we organize ourselves as farmers? Now that the government has adopted the cooperative model, and it is saying, please you people, even at parish level, organize yourselves in PDM. But some people are still stubborn. They say, those ones are not there. They want to remain in their own empire, which cannot help them. So I really want to call upon all our farmers outside there. Let's organize ourselves so that it becomes easy for these extension workers to reach out to us as farmers instead of going to individuals. Because these people who first, government and others, will provide very good extension services. But as long as the farmers are not organized, yes, you are going to produce a lot of maize. So what? And you know what happens to farmers when they produce a lot of maize this season? Because UFAS has trained them, supplied very good variety, the maize, it's a bumper harvest. Next season, nobody will go back to the garden. Why? Because there's no market. So ideally now, this is where the cooperative model comes in. You have gotten services very efficiently and effectively because you are all organized together. Then you aggregate. You maintain quality. You get me? Maintain quality through aggregation, add value instead of selling a kasori in raw form. You sell a finished product, you get more money. As long as the farmers have more money, the next season, they'll even be the ones looking for extension workers. And the extension workers will have done their work effectively. So we need to support each other. Let's not blame one side when our side is not clear. Let's work together, and the solution is coming together as farmers. And now that the extension workers have their own platforms in Uganda at continental level and globally, then even farmers downstream, if we are to benefit, we also need to organize ourselves. That is the way to go as a country.
When we come to farmers, there is the issue of rigidity.
Yes.
Doctor talked about many of them are used to their traditional would I call it tradition or
way of life, way of farming.
As it was, it is.
It
now and
is,
ever
you
shall
tell a
be.
farmer, no, now intercropping is something you're not going in for. There is a new way. Now you don't have to use a hoe. We can dig, doctor knows these things. Farming God's way, Someone says, but my great parent lived here. Would plant this way. We no longer scatter seeds now. It's a whole and in a line, and you find a farmer telling you, but you people, let me just ask myself, now the other ones that want, and are you going to count them?
No.
So how do we go over this, doctor? Because most of the times, few seminars I've attended, I'm passionate about agriculture.
That's powerful.
I see many of these extension workers, one of the things they really fight with is introduction of new things, explaining why, where I used to scatter seed, now I have to plant in line. Telling me why you're introducing a new variety. Actually, many of them even fear new varieties.
Yeah.
These are intending to weed out this. Many of them don't understand why previously we had a seed you would keep from a harvest, plant it, it germinates, gives you results, keep that seed, and now you're giving them a seed that when you plant grows once and you can't replant.
Well, I think your point, first of all, is that how can we encourage farmers to take up new practices, new technologies without resisting them? I think farmers and we, as Mukulu Ivan here mentioned, we have appreciated government, but we also must appreciate our farmers. You've fed us. You have made people who are not in farming be able to survive. They can be able to buy good food and so on. But even communities where you work and live have food. Your own families depend on the food that you grow. But for me, one thing I can encourage farmers, because I think it's also a respectful approach you have to use to encourage farmers to do things differently. If you notice now, we have grown in number, okay? Our fields are no longer as big as they used to be. And they are not even as fertile as we think they are. Why? Because when you have a small plot, just a specific plot of land on which you are putting everything that you grow, just like, you have a store of rice, or let me say 3 kilos of rice, after 2 days, that rice is finished. So even with soil, when you plant, sooner or later, the nutrients that are in the soil will also exhaust. So you find that our soils also cannot bring as much produce as we expect. And so when we, let alone the soil, even the seed you plant has power to produce more or less. Now, if it's not of good quality, it will not give you what you want. So this is where you send people to school to study agriculture, to come up with new, we call them varieties or better seed. And Mr. Chilaba, by the way, for your information, there are farmers who are now supporting scientists to produce seed because the seed may not be enough. We get a good farmer who is very disciplined to help us produce, say, the bean seed or the maize seed other farmers can use. So it's still important that you use an improved seed which will grow better. But also it's important that you manage your soil, your garden well. And so if you don't do that with the increased split of our plots and you don't put in anything, you'll always find that you get less. So the point of staying with what you used to do way back no longer counts. So we are so many, we are mining. It's like, as I said, the example, I bought 3 kilos of rice for my family, 1 or 2 days, it is finished. People are eating all the time. So the soil is being used all the time. It needs to be improved. The seed that we are using also needs to be better. So I would say again, Mr. Chilabo, that we need again to, it's kind of sensitizing farmers more. But more importantly to me, farming now is a business, isn't it? You know, it's a source
And
of
you advocate
income.
for commercial
Yeah,
agriculture.
and interestingly, by the way, many people have gone into farming as a business. Many people are using improved technology and so on. Some are still behind, but those who depend on it for money, they've actually embraced. The challenge, I think, is around markets. That's where we are strong on organizing, farm organizing, so that we can access markets. And therefore, when you have a market and a source of income, we can use some of that income now to buy improved seed, to buy fertilizer, or even to use what we call combined manure or organic with inorganic, because that keeps the soils very well. When you have a market, to me, I believe in markets. In any case, start with the market, which will give you money. When you're cooperating, even you can borrow money against what you will supply later at the end of the season, so that you can manage your home needs, but also be able to improve your production, the seeds you use, the inputs, and the way you manage post-harvest. So, yes, it is true, some farmers are still in their old ways of doing business, partly because they are not organized with others, partly, yes, because they don't know that there's a sub-county official and are paid by government whom they should walk to. They still think people will go to them. I think that also must change. That as a farmer, even if you are not yet cooperating, please walk to the agricultural officer and say, I am faced with this challenge. And we have also many, I don't know if people have heard about the plant clinics. I know there are also not so many. This is where you can even take your diseased plant for help. And those programs are there also under the ministry. So I'm encouraging farmers here on this hour, UBC, to go and seek help. Just like when you get sick and things are challenging, you try on Panadol, it's not working, you just have to walk to the doctor somehow. So I think that's the advisor. They will educate you more. And again, when you go there, I believe when you put in practice that advice, things will be different.
Things will be different. Now, Dr. Miro talked about the element of marketing. And so I want to bring in Ivan. How has Uganda Cooperative Alliance helped members to market? Because the truth be told, if you are going in commercial agriculture and I make a lot of investment, then I don't have where to take my goods. More so, also most of us farmers in Uganda, issues of value addition are not what we are good at. So we have to sell our perishables in that form. That is why the middleman, usually Ivan doesn't like, comes and he looks at your goods and says, well, even if I don't take them, you're going to lose. They're going to perish. So I'd rather give you some amount that I've planned to carry for you today. So how are you handling the issue of marketing?
Oh, thank you so much. And I want to thank you, Doctor, for the explanation, especially on the extension. Now, back to the cooperatives and what we do as UCA. It's very important that once people have gotten agriculture extension services, then it doesn't end there. Just at production and productivity. The whole value chain should be complete. That's when farmers get money. And interestingly, when farmers get money, then farming becomes a business. And when you look at the NDP for now, it is based on agro-industrialization. Now, agro-industry, we have talked about the issue of value addition, whereby farmers have been selling their products in raw form. And hence they lose money. And that's why you find that the buyers are the ones determining the prices, which should be the reverse. It should be the farmer to determine the price. But they're exploited. Why? Because of the issues that you have talked about. So as Uganda Cooperative Alliance, what we do basically is capacity building. Like what we are doing here. Capacity building is critical. How do you change the mindset of the farmers? How do farmers understand that they should own the entire value chain, not just donating their wealth to middlemen, they make money and you remain poor. That is ideally what we are looking at. Secondly, we are looking at policy. How do we support farmers in policy, legal and regulatory framework? Like the issues of extension. How do we ensure that there is a policy on extension? How do we ensure there is a policy on value addition? Such things. Then the other issue is the conflict resolution. How do we ensure that if there are conflicts, even at marketing or production level, then UCA comes in to resolve these conflicts so that farmers can work together in groups. The other issue is resource mobilization. How do we ensure that we mobilize resources for these farmers? Because without resources, what we are saying will not work. Then another thing is integration. How do we ensure that there is an integrated model? We call it the cooperative integrated business model, whereby a farmer, when he's seated here, take an example of a coffee farmer. I like coffee because I'm a farmer. I grow coffee. Last season I got good money. I even got scared sleeping in my house. You can imagine. So now, if I'm seated there, how do I, for example, access extension services? How do I move on? I access inputs through my cooperative. Then my cooperative is there. It will bulk my coffee, and then we add value, and then collectively market. That is when you make more money. For us, we are happy that we made some money in coffee, but actually, the middleman is happier than the farmer. Now, if we are controlling this, the entire value, the value chain, we would be smiling even more than what we are doing today. Because if you added how much the middleman has taken, plus how much I was paid as a farmer, Chirabo, I would be driving a Land Cruiser today. Because ideally, farmers should be richer. But if the fact that they have not been taken through, they have not come together through cooperatives, some of them, that's why you see poverty. I was reading this morning, it's very unfortunate that farmers continue to be referred as poor people. Poor, why? Why should you be poor? You control, you are the producers. As long as you have control over your produce, you can determine the price. Why should I go to a shop and it is the manufacturer to determine the price of a phone, but when it comes to farming, agriculture, it is the buyer to determine the price of my cow? It's really unheard of. Why? Because we are not organized. But the manufacturers are organized. It is not me, the buyer, to determine the price of a phone. It is the manufacturer, because he knows, he has calculated, he knows the cost of production. But the farmers, the buyers take advantage. So this is what we do as Uganda Cooperative Alliance, and again in partnership with these organizations like UFAS. Then we go beyond and provide extension services. You know, some of these cooperatives have extension workers. You go to Chibinge. They have an extension worker. So who complements government? And when you look at what it is today, I want to inform Ugandans that if we get organized more than we are today, everything is there. You look at extension, we are there. You look at cooperatives, they are there, they have the storage facilities. Some of them have the processing machinery. Government also came in with different programs. Community Agriculture Infrastructure Improvement Program. They constructed agro-processing facilities across the country. And these ones are supposed to benefit farmers. You go to agricultural credit facility. It is there for the farmers in the commercial banks so that farmers can get money. You go to ACDP, the Agricultural Cluster Development Project in the Ministry of Agriculture. They constructed agro-processing facilities for the farmers down there. You go to NADS, you go to NUSAF, the facilities are down there. So what we need is for all the farmers, the smallholder farmers, coming together, having the power, and then we utilize all these facilities up to the end, we get better prices. That is when agriculture becomes very profitable. You go to the developed world, you go to Netherlands, farmers are very rich. One time I was there in Netherlands and we went to Parliament. the president of the farmers, president of Friesland Campina, this is the diary. When the money entered, you see members of parliament, honorable, the money has entered. He's very strong, he's a big person. But now here, farmer is different. They look at you from a different perspective. Why? You have failed to organize yourselves and you have continuously donated your wealth to the middlemen who are making more money at your expense.
Now
So
here
the
I
earlier
want to
the
bring
better.
in Dr. Miro.
Yes.
Advisory services are a necessity, more so throughout the food value chain.
Yes.
Previously, it was all about food insecurity. But now on top of food insecurity, there is food safety.
Yes.
Where, yes, you may grow food, you may have the food, but when it goes to global markets, if it's not meeting the global standards, then you're not in money.
Yeah.
But we also know that much of the advisories require money. You know?
Yes.
If you're going to have, if you go to cattle, if you've been having the Ankole cattle or the Karamajong cow, whatever, and you want to go for Jersey, a Ganze, or a Frisian, maybe you have to cough times through the price of what you've been having. If you're having improved seeds, it also still requires money, even taking extension services.
That's true. Yeah.
How do you handle this?
Again, thank you so much, and thanks. I usually say Mukulu Ivan for Elder Ivan. For Mukulu means elder. It's a term I use to show respect. Also for his submission, really emphasizing that farmers must get organized. Before I go to your question on how do we finance agriculture advisory services, is that your concern?
Yeah.
I see the picture that Mukulu Ivan is showing us. I see a plan. The ones running Kalere Market, for example, where cooperative has this space, everything coming in is still owned by the farmer, okay? So they can actually control the price that the consumer is going to pay. And therefore the farmer downstream will earn more. And even when it comes to value addition, now when the farmers earn more, one of the ways in which we advisory services can be supported. By the way, there's a difference between extension, providing extension services. The premise is for extension services that there are farmers out there where government is obligated to guide them on what to do, okay? Guide them on how to grow, how to manage their gardens, especially these days, as you are aware, we also have making sure the environment is protected so that you don't mismanage your garden, cause erosion, affect your neighbors' fields. So government is obliged to provide extension. Now that's a government, it's a public service or a public good that all farmers, whether organized or not, can have access to. That's not paid for. But now if you are to go commercial, like Mukulu Asime now has his coffee, which has brought him a lot of money. He can't afford waiting for an extension worker to come by and visit, because this is a business to him. If a challenge comes through, he will have to stand up, go find this advice, and even he will be willing to pay for that advice. That's why now we talk about advisory services as services offered at a cost, okay? For someone who is running his or her farm as a business and needs this service and is willing to pay for that service. Now, of course, as you know, our farmers are going to struggle with that, but I think some have come to mind. And actually, we encourage the farmers, especially if they are organized. You can say now we need an extension worker to come and advise us on our cassava. But when they come, let's provide them some fuel refund as farmers. So that we encourage them and incentivize them to come. So one of the ways is this: when farmers are organized in their budgets, they should put some money for advisory work.
Thank you, Dr. Miro. Well explained. Now time is running up, and I'll just be giving each of you a minute, please, for your parting shots, beginning with Ivan.
Thank you so much. I want to thank UBC for this opportunity. I want to thank UFAS for your work, government of Uganda, and all farmers outside there. I want to use this opportunity, moderator, to call upon all farmers in Uganda. Let us get organized, including myself, I'm a farmer. Let's get organized. Let us stop this level of exploitation. Let us use our extension workers downstream to really support us in order to increase production and productivity. And then let us go through our cooperatives to aggregate together, add value, and then market our produce so that we get better prices. Together, we shall all be rich. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ivan. Dr. Miro.
Again, also to appreciate yourself for the opportunity, to appreciate UCA on this partnership that we are building together, for the opportunity to come and emphasize the importance of farmers organizing, but also highlight the importance of agricultural extension and as well advisory services. To remind our viewers that UFAS, as Mukulu Ivan emphasized, is a platform. It is a space where all of us that are involved in advising and conducting extension to our farmers, but also to other value chain actors, including on food safety, on marketing, on financing, on value addition. All these things, extension now has broadened. Please come and join UFAS so that we can hold each other accountable. We make sure our profession is respected, again, okay? And it's through when we're together, just like farmers are being encouraged to come together, we also are saying as extension and advisory workers, let's come together through UFAS, hold each other accountable, lobby more, and also we've had, there's an opportunity also to be paid if our services become and contribute to the profitability of our clients. That is my parting shot, and thank you again.
Well, thank you so much, Ivan Asimwe, Dr. Miro from Makerere University. Thank you for your time, and above all, our viewer, thank you so very much. Now, the extension workers get organized, the farmers get organized. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.